How you guys doing? Welcome to Cage! Fun thing about that, easiest thing I've ever edited. Strangely, I had seen all of those movies very recently. Thank you guys so much for coming. I feel weird introducing myself at this point. My name's Greg. I do Tough Guy Cinema here at the Alamo Drafthouse. But I feel like the Caged audience is a different audience entirely because we're all kind of family and friends now. And this is now our living room that we hang out with. And once a year we gather begrudgingly with family members and watch Nicolas Cage and sit down at his altar and worship him. So thank you guys for being here today. It is going to be a Cage unlike any other. I've never bullshitted with you guys, so I'm going to let you guys know that I have a surprise I'm going to tell it to you right now because I feel like I'm really bad at keeping secrets from you, and I sit on these secrets for so long whenever we have these marathons, and it's really hard. So every time that anybody sees me anywhere, particularly if I've been drinking, people run up to me and they go, "What is the secret Caged lineup?" And I go, "I will never tell you. That is something that I always take with me to my grave." And this year was very easy because, as you guys know, and if you guys are here, whose first Caged is this? Holy shit. You guys are having the weirdest fucking day. You're starting to feel lost or weirded out or something, like just tap somebody next to you and they're gonna make sure you get home safe. But yeah, they'll tell you all about it. But so back to the story. So everybody always asks me the question, and so last year we got dangerously close to getting Nicolas Cage to come, as we are often want to do. And honestly, guys, you might think it's all part of the showmanship, but every single year I devote a large portion of my time to trying to get Nicolas Cage to come, which seems like a very bizarre thing. That I'm like, oh shit, it's December. Most people are Christmas shopping. It's time for me to start literally finding Nicolas Cage and where he might be in the world, because he works more than Samuel L. Jackson. But yeah, so last year, a friend of the Alamo, Elijah Wood, was happy to reach out on our behalf and ask Nicolas Cage to attend. Unfortunately, he was unable. This year, I kind of went through a bunch of different channels where I bugged a lot of publicists and PR people and agents and such, and I tried to get Nicolas Cage to come. Again, man travels the world, very difficult to squeeze in a Nick Cage marathon into his schedule. But the surprise I have is everybody always tries to figure out what those movies are. You could have asked me at any point, and I wouldn't have been able to tell you because this year, Nicolas Cage took a week and a half whenever I asked him if he was willing to curate this list. And so all of these Nicolas Cage movies you're going to watch today have been handpicked by Nicolas Cage. So I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, but you can't sell a ticket to Caged on Cage whenever that's your only surprise. But I was going to read this poem that somebody wrote because have you guys ever heard of this? It's like a photo booth, but at a party you can walk up to a person and most people will be like, "Oh, talk about my wife," and they write a really beautiful piece of poetry. Anyway, so I always wait in line whenever I see one of those, and I walk up and I go, "Well, what would you like me to write a poem about?" And I always go, "Nicolas Cage." And so I did it once before, and I read you guys a poem, and I got them to do it again. And so if you guys will indulge me, I was going to read this poem. And all I had was Nicolas Cage's words for inspiration. Pardon me, I'm terrible at reading. O muse of word on page, grant us the glory of Nicolas Cage. Let's sing a song inspiring all for your favorite bad lieutenant and his favorite port of call. Let us give this night a glorious whirl as we celebrate his masterpiece, Valley Girl. And if we feel a bit harried, we'll just remember when Peggy Sue got married. And fear not, friends, do not despair. We'll save the world together, inspired by Con Air. In time for life's deep investigation of the meaning of our muse of adaptations, we're honing in on this evening's prize, putting all our hope on rolling Snake Eyes. Oh, hail to the master, glasses up, hats off. To the wonder, Nicolas Cage. Face on, face off. Hey, myself goosebumps. I can only imagine what you guys feel like. Anyways, thank you guys for indulging in buying a front row ticket, because I realized whenever I came down and your friend was like, oh, you guys want to buy a Nicolas Cage ticket, you logged in, you were like, shit, am I the last guy to buy a Nicolas Cage ticket? You got the front row? I'm going to give you guys this cake afterwards. It is covered with crickets. It seemed like a funny goof whenever I was at HEB, so there you go. But I'm going to share with you guys. But we have an annual tradition of always inviting Nicolas Cage and singing him a birthday song. So I'm going to light this candle. And if you guys don't want to join and do a happy birthday together, we can start this thing off. Because I would hint at what the first movie is, but literally I don't know. But yeah, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for being here today. I never thought I was going to get away with one Nicolas Cage as a professional job choice, let alone 4. And it is my deepest honor, and I'm deeply humbled whenever you guys show up and do this thing with me. So thank you guys for being here. But yeah, let's sing Happy Birthday, because it seems like a stupid way to start. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Welcome to Cage.
Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why would you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all else was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. And whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Mad men know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh so gently. And then when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh so cautiously, cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone and inquiring how he has passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night just at 12 I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph to think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch with the thick darkness, for the shutters were closed, fastened through fear of robbers. And so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily, steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, And in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening just as I had done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief, oh no. It was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him. Although I chuckled at heart, I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise when he had turned in his bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, this is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor, or it is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp. Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he never saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length, in a simple dim ray, like the thread of the spider, shot from out of the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open. And I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct precisely upon the damned spot. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the sense? Now I say, there came to mine ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If still you think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head, and the arms, and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot, whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bells sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had deputed to search the premises. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed in the enthusiasm of my confidence. I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things, but ere long I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more and more distinct, and I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling. But it continued and gained definiteness until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale. But I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton, and I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Now, why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides as if excited to fury. But the noise steadily increased, and oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore, I swung the chair upon which I'd been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no. No, they heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now again, hark! Louder, 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 louder! Villains! I shrieked! Dissemble no more! I admit the deed! Tear up the planks! Here! Here! It is the beating of his hideous heart!
Officially how I'm walking into all rooms for the rest of my life.
Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you for
So, you're going to stick around today, right?
Yeah, I thought we'd all hang out together if that's okay.
Yeah, we're going to have a marathon today. Yeah, we saved you a seat like we always do. I just never thought you were actually going to be able to fill it, because holy shit. I just never thought that I was going to be wearing a Nicolas Cage shirt while meeting Nicolas Cage. How embarrassing this must be for me. But no, yeah, before people wander in, because nobody knows at all what they're going to watch,
Right.
But would you be able to maybe say a little bit without telling people any of the titles, why you picked these movies and kind of what you hope for them to get from it?
Well, one of the movies I made here in your beautiful city. Another one of the movies I made in a very exotic country. My current girlfriend is actually from there, so I wanted to do that. And then one of the movies I think speaks to the madness, which I just went through with you. Well, now I forget what the other two were.
That's even okay. You got to keep that close to your chest, and I respect that. But no, after this whole wacky day is done, we cool if we sit down and maybe do a Q&A afterwards?
I would love to, as long as we can take questions from the audience.
Oh, absolutely. I would never take that away. Holy shit, but Nicolas Cage, if you'll indulge me, I would love to start watching movies with you.
I would be happy to do that with you. Thank you again.
Thank you guys so much for being